My husband acted bravely to save someone but ended up with both his legs crushed. Meanwhile, I took all the money from home, went to a nightclub, and hired 8 male models for the night. I didn't come back until dawn. The next day, I grabbed the deed to the house and went out to finalize a sale with a buyer. Margaret found me, fell to her knees with a loud thud, and clung to my legs, sobbing uncontrollably. "Emily, Derek just lost both his legs yesterday while saving someone. Now you've taken all the money from home. Please, let this money from the house sale be used for his treatment. He loves you so much. How can you abandon him in his most desperate moment?" Her eyes were filled with sincerity and desperation, but I turned away, picked up the card with $2 million from the house sale, and tucked it into my bag. "I have no money. Not a single penny," I said coldly. "Emily, I'm begging you. Derek is still lying in the hospital, waiting for the money that could save his life. Please, don't be so heartless." "I'm not asking for much. Just pay for his medical expenses, okay? This home was built by you and Derek together. How can you leave him with nothing?" I impatiently adjusted my clothes, which had been tugged and wrinkled by her, and looked at her. I said I don't have any money. None. Not a cent. She looked at me, her mouth agape, as tears streamed down her face like broken pearls on a string. "But you've already sold the house. The buyer has paid, haven't they?" "Emily, are you truly so cruel? After all these years of marriage, are you really going to watch him die?" I frowned, my gaze filled with irritation. "He's not dead yet, is he? It's just his legs. Stop being so dramatic. The doctor said he won't die. This happened because he was trying to save that family. It's his own fault. Go and ask that man's wife and kids for money. Why are you coming to me?" Margaret froze, as if she couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. Then suddenly she slammed her head hard against the ground. "Emily, I'm begging you. I'll kneel and bow if that's what it takes. That family, just a widow and her kids, they're struggling to survive themselves. How could they possibly come up with so much money for medical expenses?"
"You're forcing us into a corner, Emily."
"If you don't help, I'll die here today, just to get you to pay Derek's medical bills." With that, she banged her head on the ground repeatedly, the loud thuds echoing and sending chills down people's spines. I ignored her and walked straight out of the real estate office. The security guard, unable to take it anymore, blocked my way and shouted, "This is a public place. Look at what you've done to her. Give your mother-in-law an answer before you leave." I stared at him and pulled out my phone. "Mind your own business or I'll make a complaint and get you fired." The guard hesitated, glancing at me nervously, and didn't dare stop me further. Margaret stumbled out after me, crying and pleading. At the entrance, I saw a homeless man and casually tossed him $2,000. "Go get yourself a nice meal," I said. Seeing this, Margaret became even more desperate. "Derek's life means so little to you? Is it worth less than a beggar's?" "Emily, if you can give that much to a beggar, can't you treat me as one too? I'm begging you, just give me a little so I can pay Derek's medical bills." Her trembling hand reached toward me as she murmured, "Please, save my son." The homeless man looked moved by her plight and seemed to want to share some of the money with her. I stepped forward and said to him, "If you give her any of that money, I'll take back every dollar I just gave you." The homeless man hesitated for a moment, his face filled with disbelief. "You are truly heartless." Then he clutched the money and walked away without looking back. This completely crushed Margaret. She even forgot to cry, standing dumbfounded as she watched the beggar walk away. Then, as if possessed, she lunged at me. "Emily, are you even human? Your husband lost his legs saving someone, and you took the opportunity to take all the money from home. You even sold the house. Do you want to see our whole family dead?" A little boy about 7 or 8 years old suddenly rushed up and shoved me, shouting, "You're a terrible woman with no conscience. That man was a good person." And this is how you treat his family? Sophie, the young clerk from the real estate office, couldn't stand it anymore. She ran out, helping Margaret up. The boy is right. You're unworthy of being called a human. Your husband is in the hospital, waiting for your money to save his life. Even if you want a divorce, half of the marital assets should go to him. You're taking advantage of your husband's injury and your mother-in-law's old age to take everything for yourself? Karma is real. You'll pay for this cruelty. After saying this, she turned to Margaret and said, "Ma'am, she's just assuming you don't understand the law because of your age. Even in the case of a divorce, half of the family property would still belong to you, let alone now that you're not even divorced yet. She sold this house for $2 million. Take her to court and make her hand over $1 million to you." Margaret's eyes lit up with hope and gratitude as she looked at Sophie. I let out a cold laugh, my expression calm and composed. "Well, Sophie, that's quite the brilliant idea you've come up with. But even if the court rules in your favor, it'll take 2 or 3 months. On top of that, there's the 6-month divorce cooling-off period. If you want half of the house sale money, Margaret might have to wait a year or more." "Oh, but here's the thing. My dear husband can't wait that long. Now what shall we do?" "Since you think they're so pitiful, Sophie, why don't you go all the way and donate a few $100,000 to them? How about that? And a year later, if my disabled husband happens to win the case, he can pay you back." Sophie was left speechless by my words. She pressed her lips together, her face turning bright red. The people around us gathered closer, speaking up in defense of Margaret and Derek. "Why wasn't it you who broke your leg instead? When your husband was healthy, you let him pay for everything. Now that he's sick, you're running off with the money, even hoping he'll die. Are you even human?" Some were even angrier, raising their arms as if to hit me, only to be held back by others nearby. Life has a way of serving justice. A woman this vicious will get what's coming to her sooner or later. Margaret, seeing my cold-hearted demeanor, steeled herself and dropped to her knees at my feet, opening a video call. "Emily, look at Derek. Look at him. I don't believe after all these years that you haven't been moved by his kindness, even just a little. All the good he's done for you. How can it not be worth this surgery money?" Margaret's voice was filled with anguish as the video call connected. On the other end, Derek's frail face appeared. He looked pale, with sunken eyes, but the first thing he said was, "Mom, don't give Emily a hard time. I'm not even human anymore. I'm just a burden to her. And it's only my legs that are gone. I'm still alive. I can always find odd jobs to support myself. Please, Mom, Emily is the love of my life. Letting her live freely and happily is more important to me than anything. Even if we spend tens of thousands on surgery now, there'll be countless more costs for recovery later. I don't want to drag her down." Margaret simply stared at him, tears streaming silently down her face. The onlookers couldn't help but be moved. "This woman is absolutely despicable. Any man who marries her is doomed." "Exactly. She's a disgrace to all women. Look at the way she's bullying this family." Just listen to what she said. If she has even a shred of decency, she'd pay for her husband's surgery. Hold on, let's not get too worked up. What if there's more to the story? If her husband has truly treated her so well, she wouldn't be this heartless, would she? You never really know what's in someone's heart. Some women only care about money. Now that her husband is paralyzed and the house sold for $2 million, maybe she's just trying to keep it all for herself. I curled my lips into a faint smile, ignoring the crowd's speculations, and turned to the camera. "Well, Derek, since you're being so understanding today, tell me, when should we go finalize the divorce?" Derek forced a weak smile, still looking at me with that familiar warmth. "I'll cooperate with you any time to sign the papers." Before he could finish his sentence, he collapsed straight onto the hospital bed, and the video on the other end went dark. At that moment, a plastic water bottle flew out of the crowd and hit me on the head. I couldn't dodge in time and ended up with a bleeding forehead. I saw it was a man in the crowd, his face filled with righteous fury as he tried to charge at me. How can someone this vile even exist? Today I'm going to take justice into my own hands and eliminate this scourge. Margaret, as if all the strength had been drained from her, slumped onto the ground, her face streaked with tears as she looked at me. Derek can't hold on much longer. Emily, even if you dislike me, surely you can't deny the sacrifices Derek has made for you over the years. Every penny he's earned. He's only ever kept $500 for himself as pocket money. The rest he gave all to you. When you got into a car accident, it was Derek who took time off work to stay by your side day and night. He even quit the stable corporate job he finally landed, just so he could take on higher paying but more grueling work. He worked late into the night, sometimes sleeping at the office, just so he could earn enough to give you a better life. He did all of this for you. Don't you have a heart? Faced with her accusations, I was left speechless. Derek's devotion to me was well known. He was gentle, never once raising his voice at me. He'd even flown to another city just to get me the green rice balls I loved. I was in a car accident, and he stayed by my side in the hospital, taking care of me and encouraging me every step of the way. To buy a designer handbag, he even worked overtime for days and nights at the office without coming home. I looked at Margaret crouching on the ground, trying to awaken my sympathy with her last ounce of warmth. I felt pity for her. The onlookers saw the wavering expression on my face and began persuading me, one after the other, to return the money he had given me over the years so he could afford his treatment. But I looked into Margaret's hopeful eyes and coldly replied, "Don't waste my time." Then, turning to the surrounding people, I said mercilessly, "If any of you feel sorry for her, take out your own money for her. Don't stand there casting moral judgments on me." The young woman, Sophie, who was an employee, had already started live streaming with her phone. She pointed the camera at me, her voice filled with indignation. There truly are such cold-blooded monsters in the world. I may have just started working and don't have much money, but I've saved up $2,000, and I'm donating all of it to this lady. Let's show the world what kind of heartless devil you really are. I smirked coldly and walked away without looking back. Over the next few days, this young woman became a lifesaver in the eyes of Derek's family. She even quit her job to help Derek by live streaming from the hospital, pleading for donations from the online community. Meanwhile, my front porch was piled high with funeral wreaths and black and white photos. Previously, people would Photoshop my obituary photos online, but now they printed them out and sent them straight to my doorstep. The mourning couplets on the wreaths read, "May you die a terrible death." Through the donations from the live stream audience, Derek underwent surgery. However, the delay in treatment caused irreparable nerve damage, leaving Derek permanently disabled. His family was devastated, crying as if their hearts would break. The live stream viewers continued to donate. "I'm a college student. I live on bread and pickles every day, but I'm donating $50. I've donated $20. I used the rest to buy a funeral wreath for your wife. I sent your wife a dead rat. Tomorrow I'll go to her house and throw garbage, so this heartless monster can never walk the streets again." The online fury was overwhelming. People wanted to tear me apart, drink my blood, and vent their rage. But it wasn't enough. Not enough. I needed to add more fuel to the fire. Casually scrolling through trending topics, I uploaded a post showcasing my extravagant lifestyle. The caption read, "I don't care for your pennies. Dead rats and wreaths don't scare me. Be bold, be yourself." The more attention this garnered, the more impactful it would be when I revealed the bloody truth. It wasn't long before I received a court summons. With so much public interest in the case, several pro bono legal teams offered to help Derek's family sue for divorce and division of assets. On the day of the trial, the courthouse was packed with supporters rooting for Derek. Some chanted slogans, while others held banners. Derek is a hero who acted selflessly. Heroes shouldn't be treated like this. Let Emily, this vicious woman, die. Don't let her taint this world. We demand a fair trial. Fairness? Today, I'll show you the true meaning of fairness. Derek's legal team included some of the brightest minds in the modern legal field. As for me, I stood alone. No one was willing to represent me. But I didn't care. I could handle this on my own. No lawyer, no matter how skilled, could erase hard evidence. I requested to live stream the trial proceedings. Whoever makes a claim must provide evidence. It was clear they had meticulously prepared for this. The opposing lawyer spoke with fervor, determined to destroy me. Emily, is it true that you transferred marital assets and refused to pay for the plaintiff's medical expenses? I nodded calmly. It's true. Margaret, hearing how easily I admitted it, couldn't restrain herself. Judge, she admitted it. Hurry up and sentence her to death. This demon caused my son's disability. I knelt before her, even smashing my head on the ground, but she still refused to save my son. If only we had treated Derek's legs earlier, he could have been healed. I was immune to her wailing. The jury members, however, were visibly moved, their eyes filled with anger as they looked at me. I spoke calmly, but, Your Honor, I had to do it. The crowd turned to me, their expressions questioning how I planned to defend myself. I presented a video and asked for it to be played. The footage began with Derek's friend, Nathan, the person Derek had rushed into the fire to save. But Nathan didn't make it out alive. Derek only rescued Nathan's wife and child. But was that the whole truth? A month ago, Nathan came to me. We had never interacted much before. He played me a recording. The voices in the recording were my husband, Derek, and Nathan's wife, Rachel. That wretched woman didn't even put my name on the car title. She's clearly guarding against me. I wanted her and that car gone this time, to get rid of my frustration. Who would have thought she'd survive? Now I have to look at her face every day and take care of her in the hospital. It's absolutely disgusting. The voice was unmistakably Derek's. Previously, Margaret had knelt on the ground, tearfully telling me how Derek had meticulously cared for me after my car accident. It turns out the accident was his doing, and he stayed by my side to prevent me from growing suspicious. Oh, Derek, don't be so impatient. Her mom left her this house worth $2 million. The most important thing right now is to keep her from suspecting anything. You need to play it cool. Rachel's soft, flirtatious voice had a seductive edge to it, suggesting they had been up to something in the car. But what about my gambling debts? Those people will come knocking soon. If Emily finds out, she'll divorce me immediately and then we'll get nothing. There was a brief silence before Rachel spoke again. Nathan is such a useless man. I've been sick of him for so long. Tomorrow, I'll take out a huge life insurance policy on him and make it look like an accident. You take the insurance paperwork to your creditors and ask for more time. Once the insurance company pays out, you'll have the money to clear your debts. How about that? I've gone all out for you. Once we get Emily's million house, you better make sure my name is on the deed. Derek was silent for a moment before responding to Rachel. My mom said she and my dad are getting old, and I'm their only son. She wants to experience what it's like to own a mansion. My mom suggested putting the deed in her and my dad's names first. That way they can hold their heads high back in their hometown. Don't worry, I'm their only son. They'll give it back to us eventually. Rachel's voice grew sharp. So your whole family is planning to take advantage of me? You're all blood relatives and I'm the outsider. I gave you a child, made Nathan raise him for years. And now you want to use that loser's life to your advantage and I get nothing in return. If your family is so united, then I'll stay out of it. You can get the money from your wife yourself. I'll take your child and live my own life. Don't even think about making him acknowledge you as his father." Derek quickly tried to calm her down, promising to convince his parents. Then the recording ended with some rather explicit sounds. Nathan told me he discovered this recording by accident while fixing the car's dashcam. It turned out my previous car accident was orchestrated by them. The day I bought the new car, Derek was overjoyed and insisted on accompanying me to handle the paperwork. Afterward, he didn't question why I hadn't put his name on the title. He just looked visibly disappointed. I thought he was just tired from running errands with me. I had no idea there was another reason behind it. Just a few days after getting the car, I had the accident. It's not the obvious villains you need to fear, but the ones who smile at you while stabbing you in the back. All those nights he claimed to be working overtime to earn more money. He was actually with Ray. Every month, Margaret demanded sea cucumbers in her diet. The money he gave me was never enough, and I had to make up the difference. When I complained, he'd say, "I'm not like you, coming from a family that owns a business. My mom worked so hard to raise me. Is it wrong for me to show her some respect and buy her nutritious food? Do you really have to nitpick? If it weren't for my mom's sacrifices, you wouldn't have such an amazing husband." All this while living in my house. Because he had once pursued me so passionately, I chose not to argue over money. Little did I know my tolerance only encouraged him to plot against me. His so-called overtime was actually spent with another woman. Later, I found out that his actual income, including overtime and bonuses, was $20,000 a month. A large portion of that went straight to Rachel. He symbolically gave me $4,500, expecting me to cover the expenses of his family, providing his mother with a life of luxury and indulgence. My heart was bleeding, the pain suffocating me. Nathan told me that he and Rachel were planning to take my property once they felt my suspicions had subsided. That very day, after meeting with Nathan, I initiated the transfer of my assets and notarized the documents. I asked Nathan, "What are you planning to do?" Nathan held his head in his hands, sobbing in anguish. What else can I do? After all these years, the child isn't mine, my best friend isn't real, and my wife even wants to take my life. Sometimes I just want to die and put an end to it all, but the hatred consumes me. I tried to comfort him. Life is long, and maybe this is the universe's way of saving us, revealing their true colors. You need to give yourself a chance. He mocked himself, saying that Rachel always saw him as a loser while she was still living at home. Even now, knowing the truth, he felt lost about what to do. He wanted to divorce Rachel and escape from her. I advised him that the two of them were strapped for cash at the moment. If he confronted them head-on now, there was no guarantee they wouldn't kill him for money immediately. I suggested Nathan lay low for a while, or quietly report them to the authorities. It was best for him not to show up in front of those two, but Nathan refused to live in hiding, and instead went back to demand a divorce. The video ended. The jury members were left speechless, their mouths agape. "This recording is fabricated. It's fake. You're framing me." I broke my leg trying to save Nathan. If I wanted to harm him, why would I let myself get injured like this? Derek's mother, Margaret, began shouting as well. "Emily, if you resent us, so be it, but how could you make up such things to slander us? If Derek was after your money, why would he kneel before strangers online to ask for donations to bring you back when you were scammed and trapped overseas?" Gasps filled the courtroom. "Wait, there's more to this. Oh, I remember now. A few weeks ago, wasn't this the same guy who, before his leg injury, live-streamed himself begging for help to save his wife?" "Yeah, I saw it too. He was banging his head on the floor, crying his heart out. His forehead was bloodied. It was truly heartbreaking. People donated to him so he could rescue his wife." He doesn't seem like a bad person, does he? And he's even done acts of heroism. This can't all be fake, right? Could it be that she's the one fabricating evidence against him? I took a deep breath and said, I remember it clearly. How could I forget? He was asking about insurance payouts, which can take months to process. His creditors couldn't wait that long. So he drugged me, lured me to the border, and sold me overseas. At the border, his true nature was revealed. He grabbed me by the throat and forced me to transfer all my money to him. He demanded I change the name on the property deed and sign contracts selling my company to him for just $1. Emily, now that we're at the border, do you see that river ahead? Once you cross it, there's no turning back. Now, hand over all your money and your company to exchange for your life. Sign the papers. If you don't, I'll hand you over to these mercenaries right now. You should know what happens to women once they cross that river. I struggled to stay conscious, trying to negotiate with Derek. Do you think I'd trust you? If I sign everything now and you still throw me over, you'd end up getting twice the money. Take me back home, and I'll transfer all the shares of my company to you. You can even keep me tied up during the trip. Just let me return home safely, and I'll give up everything. As he hesitated, one of the mercenaries grew impatient and threatened to keep him there as a laborer if he didn't leave soon. He shot me a cold smile. Why don't you go ahead and enjoy yourself over there? When I get back, I'll report you as missing or say you were killed abroad. As your legal husband, I'll inherit everything you own. I clenched my teeth, wanting to lunge at him and kill him on the spot. But one of the mercenaries kicked me hard in the chest, and another joined in, beating me mercilessly. Derek watched my miserable state, laughing with delight. Having money doesn't make you invincible. Look at you, acting all high and mighty at home. Here, you're nothing but a piece of meat. He joined in the assault, stomping on my hand with full force. That's for being so self-righteous, for refusing to give me money. You're nothing but trash. Rotting here is all you deserve. Curled up on the ground, battered and coughing up blood, my consciousness began to fade. Fortunately, my assistant, who had been suspicious and followed me, had placed a tracker on me and managed to save me in the end. Due to my severe injuries, I had spent some time recovering abroad. It wasn't until I received Nathan's dying text message that I hurried back, only to be met with the devastating news of his death. I presented the evidence. Derek's face turned ashen, but he still managed to put up a front. You're accusing me of lying to you, of trying to sell you to the Golden Triangle, but weren't we just on a vacation in Thailand? And didn't you eventually return home? What can a foreign medical record and a blurry video really prove? And besides, I just happened to see Nathan's house on fire, so I went over to help put it out. If I were out to harm someone, why would I risk getting myself involved? Then he turned to the judge. I request a recess. The plaintiff is slandering and defaming me. I'm physically exhausted and need a break. After the recess, I sat in the lounge when Derek's mother, Margaret, approached me in her wheelchair. Emily, I'll drop the charges against you, but you need to tell the court that all your evidence is fake. We'll call it even, and I promise not to bother you in the future. I raised an eyebrow. Are you threatening me now? I didn't survive abroad just to let you off the hook. For someone like you, spending the rest of your life in prison seems like the safest option. Otherwise, who knows when you might show up at my house to kill me. You sold out your own wife to pay off your gambling debts. Is there anything you wouldn't do? He gritted his teeth. Don't push your luck. If you corner me, I'll take us both down. I chuckled softly. The fish is already dead, and the net has long been torn. At this point, it's a matter of life and death between us. Unless you manage to kill me right now. Margaret, who had been pushing her wheelchair, could no longer suppress her murderous intent. She pulled out a hidden knife and swung it at me. You wretched woman. If I kill you now, you won't be able to hurt my son anymore. Gone was the pitiful old woman I had once seen outside the housing department. In her place was someone with eyes as venomous as a viper and the fury of a murderer. "I've lived long enough. If I kill you and take all the blame for my son, it'll be worth it," she roared, her body seemingly bursting with energy, each strike of the knife full of force. Sitting in his wheelchair, Derek did nothing to stop her. He just watched coldly. Right now, I hadn't revealed the hard evidence of Derek's crimes. If they killed me and Margaret took the fall, it would be the perfect cover-up. They could then withdraw the divorce application. With me dead, they'd still be able to get my money. Such a sinister plan. But did they really think I'd wait alone in this room without a plan of my own? As Margaret swung the knife at me, I didn't scream. I simply dodged. Derek noticed the pattern in my movements and realized my intentions, but before he could shout, on my final sidestep, his mother plunged the knife into his collarbone. His blood-curdling scream drew a crowd. I removed the hidden camera from my clothing. When I glanced at my phone, I saw that the live stream already had hundreds of thousands of viewers. Among the onlookers was Sophie, a young assistant who had come with Derek's family to cheer them on. She stared, dumbfounded. She stood frozen at the door, silent tears streaming down her face. Her eyes were filled with regret and despair. I patted her shoulder. "This is your first lesson in the real world, Sophie. Now go and sue them. There's still hope to recover the money you lost." The pro bono lawyers wore grim expressions, realizing their righteous indignation had been turned into a farce. The internet erupted. What a twist. That old woman looked like she wanted to jump through the screen and attack us. "She's nothing like the frail, pitiful lady we saw outside the housing department. Is she secretly an Oscar-winning actress? Did you see that guy in the wheelchair? It was like he had planned all of this, just watching it unfold coldly. Could it be that Emily was telling the truth all along?" "This is chilling. Wait, what happened to that mistress, the one who conspired to kill her husband? Why hasn't she shown up?" The case blew up online, and netizens began digging into Nathan's case and Rachel's background. Just like before, waves of public outrage poured in, only the target had changed. Derek was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Margaret was taken into custody for questioning. At the front gates, Rachel, covered in Black Dog's blood, was dragged off for investigation. Because the evidence I provided was complete, the property was a gift from my parents before marriage, and I had documented and kept records for every dollar of the $4,500 Derek spent each month. The court ruled in my favor. The divorce was finalized, and Derek left with nothing but the clothes on his back. Those who had badmouthed me online were now switching sides. While the divorce case was settled, the matter concerning Nathan still needed closure. Before Nathan died, he sent me a text message while I was abroad. Proof of the affair. "Come quickly." As soon as I received his message, I sent someone to his house to find him. By the time they arrived, he was already dead. His assistant managed to retrieve the password to the cloud storage where he had hidden the evidence. After watching the video, my entire body trembled with anger and disbelief. There are truly some monsters in this world who are beyond redemption. I backed up the video and handed it over to the police. Then, I posted it on social media. The video began with Rachel. She stared into the camera with a fearless expression. "Since you've already found out there's no other choice, I'll just have to send you to meet your maker sooner." Nathan's anguished voice came through the audio. "Why? If you don't love me, why did you marry me? Why couldn't you just be with Derek?" Rachel's eyes widened, clearly caught off guard. "Do you think I didn't want to? That old hag from Derek's family insisted he marry someone wealthy, someone who could afford her daily feasts of caviar and her mansion lifestyle. I had nothing. I used up all my strength just to claw my way out of that village. What else could I do but settle for a loser like you? At least your life is worth something now. The payout I'll get from your death can help me and Derek. Just accept it and go in peace." With that, she plunged a knife toward Nathan. But Nathan, being a man, managed to grab the knife and fought back. At that moment, Derek appeared, kicking Nathan to the ground. They tied Nathan's hands and planned to turn on the gas, intending to make it look like an accidental death by poisoning. While they were gathering valuables to flee, Nathan managed to free his hands. He grabbed a lighter from the table and threw it at them. Derek, in a panic, pushed Rachel and the child out the door and rushed back into the now-burning house, intending to finish Nathan off with a wooden club. In the video, Derek approached with a twisted smile, the club raised high in his hands. Step by step, he drew closer. The two men began to fight. Nathan managed to wrestle the club away from Derek, but Derek retaliated by slamming Nathan's head against the wall, once, twice. Each blow was delivered with full force, as if Derek truly intended to kill Nathan. After countless hits, Nathan's body began to sway, and the camera became unstable. When Derek noticed Nathan was barely holding on, he tried to escape. But Nathan, kneeling on the ground, used every ounce of strength left in him to strike Derek's leg. The camera didn't capture what happened to Derek afterward. It wasn't clear how much time had passed, but the screen eventually lit up again. Nathan, his hands covered in blood, shakily pulled out his phone amidst the flames. He sent me the text message. Afterward, Nathan stopped moving, letting the fire consume him. The video, synced to the cloud, was what allowed me to find this critical evidence. This was the final act Nathan gave his life for. A decisive piece of proof. I couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. I had to make sure his death meant something. So I spread the word, letting Derek's family know I was selling my house, causing them to create a scene at the local government office. Margaret, who was in prison, even tried to take the blame for Derek's crimes. This had been their plan all along. Derek would stay clean, and once he had enough money, he could get her out of prison. Margaret, thinking only of her son's future, tried to shoulder all the blame. It might have worked if it weren't for the video Nathan had risked his life to record. When I visited Margaret in prison, I showed her the video. After watching it, she completely broke down, screaming hysterically, "Emily, you wretched woman. I should have knocked you out and thrown you into an alley to be destroyed by men. Or better yet, I should have just run you over back then. Damn it, why didn't I have the guts to kill you sooner?" She pounded on the glass divider between us, as if she wanted to smash through it and strangle me. The female officer behind her used a stun baton to subdue her and dragged her away. As for Derek, now both crippled and injured, he became a vegetative state after Margaret stabbed him during a heated argument. His brain was still functioning, but his body was paralyzed. Because of his condition, he couldn't serve his sentence and was confined to a hospital instead. Rachel, pregnant with Derek's child, was allowed to give birth before serving her sentence. But after giving birth, she abandoned the baby at the police station and disappeared. Her pregnant belly no longer a hindrance. I sat by Derek's bed, slowly peeling an apple. "Derek, I know you can hear me. At this point, I'm the only one left who bothers to visit you. Your mistress ran off, dumped your son with the police, and now your father is raising him. She's still carrying your child, but who knows where she's gone now. Even though you're in a vegetative state, your body's surprisingly healthy. What do you think would happen if someone decided to cut you open? Would it hurt?" With that, I glanced at the shadow behind me from the corner of my eye, then turned and walked away. Later, I heard that Derek's body was taken away overnight. The police investigation revealed that Rachel had transported him with a group of men. As for where they went, across the border. But then the news came. After a night of heavy rain, a male corpse washed up in a river that ran between two countries overseas. The man had died a gruesome death. All of his organs had been removed. Along with him, a female corpse surfaced. The woman was pregnant, with a large incision on her abdomen. Reaping what they sowed, consumed by their own flames. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window in my office, taking a deep breath. The years I spent with Derek felt like living in a web of lies he had meticulously crafted. After discovering the truth, it took only a few months for me to become utterly drained, both physically and emotionally. But now, everything has settled. The chaos is over. Magnolia blooms swayed gently in the breeze along the street. The pain of the past had faded into a distant memory. With the vast expanse of the world before me, I was ready to write a brand new chapter of my life.